Welcome back. As the death toll from the coronavirus rises, it is having a direct impact on one iconic South Florida industry. We're talking about the lobster fishermen of the Florida Keys. I've been covering the business of lobster for more than a decade and recently traveled to the Keys to understand the economic impact the coronavirus is having on that industry. His boat loaded with empty lobster traps, Gary Nichols pulls up to his fish house on Conch Key.
Another happy day to get to the dock.
Lobster season is ending early this year for Nichols and many of the other lobstermen of the Florida Keys for reasons out of their control.
Traditionally, we fish till the middle end of March, and we get a spring run of lobster, but the Chinese have stopped their buying due to the coronavirus.
With the virus spreading across China, commercial flights from the United States were recently halted. But even before the airlines stopped flying, the major buyers in China were canceling orders for Florida's spiny lobster, as fears of the virus was hitting the country's economy and keeping people out of restaurants. Florida lobster is considered a delicacy in China and is often the star of any dinner, especially during Chinese New Year's, which has been underway for the past week. For Florida's lobstermen, this is when prices normally soar.
We had just gotten our prices up to a decent level. You know, this is our normally between a $12 and $20 lobster this time of year, and we dropped the price down to the $6 range on a lobster. To the fishermen, and it's pretty devastating, you know.
The drop caught Nichols by surprise.
Usually I get a text message every day or so that the price is going up $1, maybe $2 a pound. I get a text message on Friday and it says the volume, the bottom's dropped out. We have coronavirus and the buyers in China aren't buying.
The price went down $4 within 4 days.
Steve Kramer was pulling his traps out of the water as well.
We should have had probably another week and a half of really good pricing, and then the price would have leveled out.
Shipping live lobsters to China saved the Florida lobster industry 10 years ago. Nichols was one of the first to do it.
Literally, our quality of life has been a lot better than what it was. We've been able to pay our bills, make a little money.
But now with the prices down, Nichols says it isn't worth keeping his 3,000 traps in the water. The small amounts of lobster he now catches, he's selling to his Chinese buyer, who will take them to a processing plant to be canned and eventually sold to China when the flights resume.
So hopefully today I might have made enough to pay expenses possibly.
The coronavirus outbreak in China is the latest problem for the lobstermen, still recovering from having their traps destroyed during Hurricane Irma, as well as the high tariffs imposed on their lobster by the Chinese government in the trade war with the U.S.
The tariffs have been not good for any of us.
And this has been a really tough last couple of years.
Kramer and Nichols know they are not alone. Because of the coronavirus, China has stopped importing gooey duck and Dungeness crab from the Pacific Northwest, as well as the more traditional lobster from the Northeast and Canada.
I know one fishery, almost 1 million pounds of lobsters that they have boxed up, ready to go to China.
Now, many of the lobstermen we spoke to said they could survive this year's shortened season without the Chinese market. But if this continues to be a problem and they are not able to ship to China when the lobster season opens again in August, they are not sure what will happen to their businesses. We'll keep an eye out on it and let you know what happens.